Swayambhuva Manu, who was born of Lord Brahma, had two sons who were both very competent to rule the universe. The eldest son, King Uttanapada, had two queens named Suniti and his favorite, Suruchi. Once, the king was playing with his youngest son, Uttama, born of Suruchi. While he was thus engaged, his eldest son, Dhruva, who was born of Suniti, wanted to join in the fun and tried to climb on the lap of his father. But the king was reluctant to let him do so, due to the disapproving glance of his beloved queen, Suruchi.
Child, his son you might be. With that, I don't disagree. But that doesn't mean you can sit on his knee. You're not qualified, can't you see? Your attempt is doomed to fail. Because you were not born from me. Child, I don't think it's very wise to try to fulfill what you can't realize. You're trying to instill a desire impossible to fulfill. Only my offspring can please the king. Whatever you do won't change a thing. So, if you are still desiring to sit on the throne or the lap of the king, you'll have to forego living in luxury and undergo severe austerities to satisfy Lord Hari. And then, by his mercy, take your next birth from me.
The boy Dhruva, having been struck by the harsh words of his stepmother, began to breathe very heavily, as a snake does when struck by a stick. When he saw that his father remained silent and did not protest, Dhruva immediately left the room and went crying to his mother, his lips trembling in anger.
Oh, my darling, what has happened? What is wrong, Dhruva? Tell me.
Suruchi was very mean to him, Your Majesty.
What did she do to him, Kanti?
Well, Your Majesty, when Dhruva wanted to climb on Maharaja's lap, Suruchi told him that he could only do so by first pleasing the Supreme Lord and then
Yes?
to take birth from her.
Oh, Dhruva, don't wish for anything inauspicious for others. For anyone who gives pain to others will suffer himself that very same pain. Whatever has been spoken by Suruchi, however harsh, is true and relevant, as your father doesn't consider me his wife or even his maidservant. He became ashamed of me. It's the fact that you are born from the womb of an unfortunate woman. Oh, my dear son. Oh, Dhruva, If you desire to sit on the throne like your stepbrother, you'll have to follow the instructions of your stepmother to worship the Lord. It's true. Worship the lotus feet of Sri Vishnu, for simply by his meditation Lord Brahma acquired the qualifications to create this universe. And your grandfather, all his desires were fulfilled, and then he gained liberation. Therefore, take shelter of the Lord, who is so kind. My darling, if you want to succeed, you shouldn't forget that his lotus feet are the shelter of those who seek sense gratification or liberation from the cycle of birth and death.
After deliberate consideration and fixed determination, Dhruva left his father's palace. When the great sage Narada came to know about Dhruva's activities, he became surprised and decided to visit the young prince.
How wonderful are the Kshatriyas! Even the slightest denigration of their character is intolerable for them. He's only a child, yet harsh words from his stepmother proved unbearable to him. Boys of your age like to engage themselves in sports and play. Why this dismay? One suffers or enjoys results of previous actions. So there's no need for dissatisfaction. You have decided to undertake your mother's instructions to meditate, to achieve a reward from the Lord, but that can't be done by just anyone. Therefore, why bother? Better go home to your mother. In a few years from now, you can take this vow. To become qualified, you should try being satisfied. See it all as a reward, the mercy of the Lord, either happiness or misery, failure or victory. If you succeed, I guarantee you cross the ocean of darkness very easily. And be very pleased whenever you meet someone in your life who is more qualified, and be compassionate whenever you meet someone you can guess is qualified less. And when you meet someone equal to you, this is what you should do. Make friends with him, and in this way you'll never have a reason to run away. Narayan, Narayan, Narayan.
Oh, Narada ji, someone like me, who gets disturbed so easily. what you so kindly have explained. This kind of philosophy doesn't appeal to me. My dear Lord, I'm very impudent, but it's not my fault. Born in a Kshatriya family, the words of Suruchi have pierced me. Learned Brahmin, I want to occupy the highest position in heaven's sky, more exalted than achieved even by my grandfather and great-grandfather. Narada ji, you are like the sun, for the benefit of everyone. Playing your veena, you traverse this entire universe.
The advice given by your mother is very wise and just suitable for you. For fulfilling one's wishes, one should indeed worship the lotus feet of the Lord Hari. My dear son, I wish all good fortune unto you. Go to the bank of the Yamuna River and bathe 3 times daily in her waters, which are very auspicious, sacred, and clear. On her banks, there's a virtuous forest named Madhuvan, where one draws nearer to Lord Hari. There, prepare yourself an asana and sit down in a calm and quiet position and practice the 3 kinds of breathing exercises. Thus, gradually control the life air, the mind, and the senses. Completely free yourself from all material contamination and with great patience begin to meditate on the Lord. His face is very beautiful. His eyes, his nose, his forehead are all very beautiful. His form is ever youthful. His hue is blue, yes, blue. His eyes and lips are reddish, like the rising sun. He will always be the defender of those who surrender, and those who have reached perfection. In seeing him, feel complete satisfaction. He's an ocean of mercy, and the only one worthy to surrender to. On the lotus of one's heart he is situated. On that 4-armed form should be meditated. The nails of his lotus feet shining, and his lotus face always smiling. One who meditates in this way will be freed from all contamination, as he'll taste day by day love of God without cessation. Now I shall teach you a mantra which is very confidential. One who chants this mantra for 7 nights can see the siddhas flying in the sky. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Make a form of the Lord out of clay, and while chanting, worship him by offering him water and purified fruits, flowers, flower garlands, or even newly grown grass, small buds of flowers, or the barks of trees, and the best of all, tulsi leaves, which are very dear to him. In this way, absorb your mind in the Lord. In order to have full control over yourself, you should be very sober and peaceful. You must be satisfied with whatever fruits and roots are available in the forest. Besides worshipping the deity and chanting the mantra 3 times a day, you should meditate on the Lord's transcendental activities. Anyone who thus engages seriously and sincerely with his mind, words and body, aloof from all kinds of sense gratification, is blessed by the Lord according to his desire.
After Dhruva entered Madhuvan, Narada Muni went to see King Uttanapada, who received him respectfully.
Narayan. Maharaj, your face appears to have withered up. You have clearly been thinking upon a troublesome matter. Have you been obstructed from following your religious duties?
Best of the Brahmins, I'm so fallen, being too attached to my wife Suruchi. I haven't been so merciful to the son of Suniti, who is only 5 years old. I don't know what to do. How I was controlled. Just see how I was partial to Suruchi. Oh, just see my cruelty. His face was like a lotus flower. I worry for his precarious condition. He is without protection. Maybe he's very hungry. Might be lying in the forest. Werewolves might have attacked him. Just see how I was partial to Suruchi. Just see my cruelty. Out of love and affection, he was climbing on my lap. But no, I would not receive him. My own offspring. Not even that. No, not even that. How I was partial to Suruchi. Just see my cruelty.
Maharaj, please, there's no need to grieve about your son. He's well protected by the Lord of Lords himself. By his great abilities, he will perform austerities unfeasible in this age by any king or sage. Very soon your son will complete his undertaking and on his own find his way back home. His fame will spread all over the world, and your own good name will be known as well. This I foretell. Narada.
Having arrived at Madhuvan, Dhruva took his bath and observed fasting in the night. Then he engaged himself in worshipping the Lord. For the first month, he ate only fruits and berries on every 3rd day. In the second month, Dhruva ate every 6 days dry grass and leaves. During the 3rd month, he drank water only every 9 days, and thus he remained completely in trance, worshipping the Supreme Lord. In the 4th month, Dhruva became a complete master of the breathing exercise, inhaling only every 12th day. In this way he became completely fixed. By the 5th month, he controlled his breathing so perfectly that he was able to stand on one leg without moving, while fully concentrated on the Supreme Brahman. Completely in control of his senses, he fixed his mind upon the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his heart. As he kept himself steady, the pressure of his big toe pushed down half the earth. With all the holes of his body closed, Dhruva became practically one in heaviness with Lord Vishnu. The total universal breathing became choked up, and all the leading devas in all the planetary systems felt suffocated, and thus took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
O Lord of Lords, every living entity seems to be suffocating, gasping and choking. We never have experienced such a thing. You are the sanctuary of every living entity, moving on unmoving. You take control of the surrendered soul. Therefore, Supreme Arranger, save us from this danger, save us from this danger, save us from this danger.
My dear Devas, do not be perturbed. The universal breathing process has been obstructed on account of the boy Dhruva's absorption in me. I shall ask him to stop, so you can safely return to your abodes.
Reassured by the Lord, the Devas were freed from all fears, and after offering obeisances, they returned to their heavenly planets. Then Lord Vishnu climbed on the back of Garuda, who carried him to the forest of Madhavan. The form of the Lord, which was brilliant like lightning, and in which Dhruva was fully absorbed in meditation, all of a sudden disappeared, thus breaking his meditation. Opening his eyes, he saw that same brilliant form standing before him, just as he had seen him in his heart. Being greatly confused, Dhruva fell flat before the Lord, and in ecstasy looked upon him as if he were drinking the Lord with his eyes, embracing the Lord with his arms, and kissing his lotus feet. With folded hands, Dhruva stood before the Lord, desiring to offer suitable prayers, but he was inexperienced. The Lord, being situated in everyone's heart, could understand Dhruva's awkward position, and out of his causeless mercy, he touched his conch shell to the boy's forehead, by which Dhruva became perfectly aware of the Vedic conclusion and understood the absolute truth, including the Lord's relationship with all living entities.
My dear Lord, you are all powerful. After entering within me, you've enlivened all my senses, especially my power of speech. My obeisances unto you, the absolute truth. How can one ever forget you? So please bless me that I may be with your devotees to transcend this material existence very easily.
My dear Prince Dhruva, you have executed pious vows. I know the desire within your heart, and although it is very ambitious and difficult to fulfill, I shall favor you with its fulfillment. All good fortune unto you. I shall award you the glowing planet of the pole star, which will continue to exist even after the dissolution at the end of the millennium. No one has ever ruled this planet, which is surrounded by all the solar systems, planets and stars, and which continues to exist even after the dissolution of all others. Having gone there, you will never have to come back to this material world. After your father goes to the forest and awards you the rule of his kingdom, you will rule the entire world for 36,000 years, and all your senses will continue to be as strong as they are now. You will never become old. Sometime in the future, your brother Uttama will go hunting in the forest, and while absorbed in hunting, he will be killed. Your stepmother Suruchi, being maddened upon the death of her son, will go to search him out in the forest, where she will be devoured by a forest fire. My dear Dhruva, you will worship me with great sacrifices and will give great charities. In this way, you will be able to enjoy the blessings of material happiness in this life, and at the time of death, you will be able to remember me.
Have I done? Just look at me. I saw the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, who can stop the cycle of birth and death in a single breath. And I prayed for things all perishable. Oh, how lamentable. Foolishly covered by Maya's energy, I saw my baby brother as my enemy. Little Uttama, my enemy. Oh, how foolish of me to pray for things all perishable. Oh, how lamentable. The Lord offered his service to me, but all I wanted was prosperity. Prosperity, name and fame. Oh, what a shame to pray for things all perishable. Oh, how lamentable. I'm just like that poor man who satisfied the emperor, who wanted to give him anything he might ask for, and who then asked him only for a few broken grains of husked rice. Oh, how lamentable.
When a messenger informed King Uttanapada that his son was on his way home, he couldn't believe his good fortune. But remembering the words of Narada Muni, he became overwhelmed. In great appreciation, he offered the messenger a highly valuable necklace which he was wearing. Then he immediately left the city, accompanied by both his wives, his son Uttama, learned Brahmins, elderly family members, officers, ministers and friends. Upon seeing Dhruva entering a nearby forest, the king hastily got down from his chariot. When they met each other, Maharaja
Oh, my son!
warmly
I'm
embraced
so
his
glad.
son.
I'm so glad to see you.
Dhruva was not the same as before, being completely sanctified due to having been touched by the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He offered his obeisances at the feet of his father, who honored him with various questions.
Oh, I'm so proud of you. I've heard from Narada Muni that you have performed greater austerities than any Kshatriya or Rishi has ever performed.
I saw Lord Vishnu, Father,
You did?
and he is so beautiful.
Oh, I'm sure he is. You are so fortunate. But I am so fortunate to have you as my son.
He then bowed his head at the feet of both his mothers. Seeing that Dhruva had fallen at her feet, Queen Suruchi immediately picked him up.
Oh, my dear boy, long may you live.
The two brothers also embraced one another. Overwhelmed by love and affection, the hairs on their bodies stood on end. Then Queen Suniti embraced the tender body of her son, who was dearer to her than her own life, and thus forgot all material grief. Her tears, together with the milk flowing from her breasts, wet Dhruva Maharaja's entire body. While everyone was praising his son, King Uttanapada was overwhelmed with joy. He had the two brothers seated on the back of a she-elephant, and thus they all returned to his capital city. In honor of Dhruva's return, the city was decorated with columns of banana trees. Many gates were set up, which were structured to give the appearance of sharks. At each gate there were burning lamps and big water pots decorated with coloured cloth, strings of pearls, flower garlands, and hanging mango leaves. All the palaces, which were already very beautiful, were decorated with golden ornaments. All the quadrangles, lanes and streets, and the raised sitting places at the crossings were thoroughly cleansed and sprinkled with sandalwood water. Rice, barley, as well as flowers and fruits, and many other auspicious presentations were scattered all over the city. As Dhruva passed by, all the gentle household ladies assembled to see him, and offered their blessings, showering him with white mustard seed, barley, curd, water, newly grown grass, fruits and flowers.
Dhruva Maharaj ki jai! May you live long, Dhruva Maharaj!
Dhruva Maharaj ki!
A huge thank you to our actors and their families. Please meet our actors. So, Ayush plays our messenger. Shobha played maid, forest keeper, and demigod. Savitri played Uttama. Vaishnavi played Suruchi. Rahu played Vishnu. Srinivas played King Uttanapada. Ramini played Dhruva. Gayatri played Suniti. Nandini played maid, forest keeper, and demigod. And Divyansh played Garuda. And my name is Vishaka, and I played Narada. So, these dramas are a major time and energy commitment, and we are so grateful to our cast for their dedicated effort and heartfelt service. Many thanks to the directors of these dramas, Champaka Lata and Nilachala. Thank you also to the devotees at the new Goloka temple for their support. Please encourage our artists and directors by offering feedback. Please let us know what you think. Did the story come alive for you? Did it?